York State Assembly and Senate also passed a one-year moratorium prohibiting the state from issuing permits for new data centers.
This legislation creates a one-year pause on new large-scale data center permits and requires a closer examination of the impacts these projects could have on our electrical grid, our water systems, our infrastructure, and our communities.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. So New York just made history, and whether you think it is a smart move or a disastrous one, it could have some implications for the future of artificial intelligence right here in America. Governor Kathy Hochul has announced the nation's first statewide moratorium on new hyperscale data centers, putting a temporary freeze on some of the largest AI infrastructure projects while the state studies their impact on the electricity grid, the environment, and the utility costs. Let's talk about why New York is doing this and what both supporters and critics have to say about this move. Welcome to Nellie Miranda.
Assemblyman Michael Cashman co-sponsored that bill. It also requires utility companies to set an independent classification for those data centers, something Cashman says would help North Country residents save on their utility bills. Vermont Governor Phil Scott actually vetoed a similar bill last week. It would have regulated any data centers that enter the state. The governor says it would have created a dangerous precedent for other industries like manufacturing.
As always, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Okay, so first off, what exactly is a hyperscale data center? Well, they're not your average office server rooms. We're talking about enormous facilities filled with thousands of computer servers that power cloud computing, artificial intelligence, streaming services, search engines, and countless apps that people use every day. Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, and OpenAI all depend on massive computing infrastructure. So what's the problem, right? Well, these facilities consume enormous amounts of electricity and water to keep their equipment cool. And according to Governor Kathy Hochul, New York needs time to better understand how these facilities affect local communities before allowing more of them to be built.
Good to see you, Governor. You know, earlier this year, you referred to a massive data center proposal in Western New York as a local decision. So why issue this executive order now?
What has happened is the scale of projects. These companies have decided that they would sort of flood the zone. All over America, they're putting in more and more applications, taxing local resources in terms of, small towns in particular that have to go through the review process and not sure how much they can get in community benefits and how much power should they be using. And I said, why don't we step back and let the state take control here, where this moratorium, as you mentioned, first in the nation, simply says New York doesn't just want to be first. We want to be the first to get it right. And what that entails is ensuring that these companies, these huge hyperscalers, will make sure that they cover their own costs for power. Either bring your own power or pay a premium to use the grid, because I already have a shortage of power for the existing businesses and our hardworking New Yorkers who are paying through the nose in utility bills. I can't say they're going to be charged more because of the existence of these companies. They have to pay their fair share. Plus, I want the communities to benefit in significant ways with investments. And I want them also, these companies, to contribute to a larger fund that'll help us support grid reinvestment. So we're going to do it in a smart way, and we just need a little time to do it.
For those who support Governor Kathy Hochul on this idea, is literally thinking about the rise in taxes and inflation. Everything costs more than it did a year ago, and you feel it every time you check out. Here's one place you might be overpaying and not even know it: your Medicare. If you are on it or you're about to be on Medicare, Chapter can help. They are the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. Folks who have switched with a Chapter last year saved an average of $1,100. That is real money, especially in this economy. And they walk away knowing that they're in the plan that actually fits their needs, with access to care that they actually count on. So for complete Medicare guidance, please call my friends at Chapter at 646-817-8160. That is 646-817-8160, or go to askchapter.org/Nellie. Now back to the story. So under the executive order, New York will pause new state environmental permits for large data centers, those requiring roughly 50 megawatts or more of power for up to 1 year. And during that time, state agencies will conduct environmental reviews and develop statewide standards governing energy use, water consumption, and other impacts before new projects move forward. So this will make New York the first state in America to impose a statewide freeze on these large AI-focused facilities. Supporters of the decision says that this is simply responsible planning. They argue that AI is expanding at an incredible pace, but infrastructure hasn't kept up. They worry that these massive facilities could drive up electricity demand, increase utility bills for local residents, strain local power grids, consume significant amounts of water, and create environmental impacts that haven't been fully studied.
Meanwhile, Republican State Assemblyman Paul Bologna, who represents parts of Erie and Niagara counties, spoke on the Assembly floor last night, questioning whether this bill gives the state simply too much power over local governments.
This legislation creates a one-year pause on new large-scale data center permits and requires a closer examination of the impacts these projects could have on our electrical grid, our water systems, our infrastructure, and our communities. What this bill is saying is that projects of this scale deserve a closer look.
Local governments exist to precisely make those types of determinations. I guess the question is a lot in this room. What's the point of having a local government if Albany is ultimately going to continuously supersede what they're allowed to do in their own communities?
So again, those in support are saying, let's slow down, study the consequences, create clear rules, and then decide how to move forward, while critics argue that New York is sending a terrible message to tech companies. As you all know, AI has become one of the biggest economic races in the world. Companies are investing hundreds of billions of dollars into data centers because AI requires enormous computing power. Opponents are worried that if New York tells those companies to wait a year or longer, that they'll simply invest somewhere else. They'll invest in states like Texas, Georgia, Ohio, Arizona, or North Carolina. Those states could end up benefiting instead. And once those facilities are built somewhere else, the jobs and long-term tax revenue may not come back. And that is the capitalistic concern, if you will. It's a real concern, but most importantly, this debate isn't just happening in New York. Communities across America have been pushing back against new data centers being built in their communities. Some residents worry about the noise, others worry about water consumption, others fear higher electricity prices, all valid concerns. Up in Michigan, residents are suing the data centers because of noise complaints and basically not being able to enjoy being outside in their own backyard.
As a new battleground in West Michigan, people in Dowagiac are suing the company that has already built one of our area's only data centers. News Channel 3's Colin Roos tells us about their complaints.
Mitchell Gorley says the noise never ends, and it makes it difficult to go outside, even with the clear skies and summer sun. Gorley says the noise is coming from just across the street, the hyperscale data center.
It's almost like having a vacuum cleaner running all the time.
The digital asset mining facility opened in 2022, and neighbors say it's been noisy ever since. Philip Cunningham says no one knew it would get this loud.
I just started hearing the noise just randomly out of nowhere, and I was like, what is that noise? And he was like, oh, that's the new data center that we have down the road. And I was like, data center?
Now residents are making some noise of their own, banding together and suing the data center's owner for being too loud. The lawsuit blames the facility's cooling fans and a lack of barriers keeping the noise contained.
Yeah, I would be pissed to learn that an AI data center is being built in my community. As much as I support capitalism, it would still be a no for me. So I guess the bigger question is, how do they go about choosing whose communities get data centers? Lower class communities, I'm assuming? Lower class Americans? Because I cannot see the rich people ever agreeing to having an AI data center built in their community, keeping them up at night, making noise, and them not being able to enjoy their backyards. However, the tech industry argues that these facilities are essential if America wants to remain competitive in artificial intelligence against countries like China. So this isn't simply a local zoning issue anymore. It's a national conversation about balancing economic growth with environmental concerns. Both sides have valid points. We know we need data centers, But maybe they should be built in the middle of nowhere where homes and communities aren't thriving. But in regard to New York, keep in mind that this pause isn't necessarily permanent. The governor says that the goal is to create consistent statewide standards, not to ban data centers forever. Once those regulations are completed, qualifying projects could move forward under the new rules. Whether that happens quickly or whether the pause gets extended, it is something that we'll have to watch for. But what are your thoughts? Should states slow down AI infrastructure until regulations catch up? Or does putting projects on hold risk pushing investment, innovation, and jobs somewhere else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you got any value from today's video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And ring the bell so you don't miss any future updates. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.